Alrighty, here goes. So, I'm going to try to film my spoiler review again. Been having some technical issues here getting these reviews up. So, also, I apologize for not always looking right at the camera. I also have some notes put up here. So, let me get to it. Hopefully, I don't have the same technical issues today. Um, Again, this is my spoiler review of Captain America, and it's mostly just me talking about spoiler content in the movie. So if you don't want any spoilers, if you don't want to know any details about the movie, don't watch this one. I already have my non-spoiler review of the movie up, so go check that one out. Again, it's on my review page on Facebook, and I will be uploading both of these videos to Tumblr shortly. Anyway, so here goes. Spoiler content galore. Here we go. The first thing I wanted to talk about, which I thought was funny, because I don't think I went and saw the movie twice now with two different friends of mine, and I don't think either of them noticed this. They've seen Marvel movies and they're Marvel movie fans like I am, but I don't think either of them noticed this, and I was like really excited that they kind of slipped this in. So the real Dr. Bassad, I believe was his name, the one who was actually supposed to psych eval Bucky after he was captured, was Joe Russo, who's one of the brothers of the directors who, one of the two directors of the movie. So Joe and Anthony Russo directed this movie. They also directed Winter Soldier, and they will be directing Infinity War Part 1 and 2. So Joe Russo actually made an appearance in Winter Soldier as the Doctor as well. He's the one who tended to Natasha after the big fight, like on the freeway and whatnot, when they went, Maria Hill took them to where Nick Fury was hiding out underground. So Joe Russo was, had a very brief cameo as the Doctor in that one. And then funny enough, they kind of continuity brought him in again to be the Doctor that unfortunately met his demise thanks to Zemo. So when I saw the scene, I was like, oh my gosh. But of course, it's a horrible time to be all smiles because he's dead in a bathtub. So, but anyway, I just thought I would point that out for anybody who maybe didn't catch that when they saw the movie. So I thought that was some brilliant subtlety right there. Anyway, I did say in my non-spoiler review, and I'm just kind of going down some notes here, so if you're wondering what I'm looking at, that's it. The frequent moving around the globe was really distracting to me. I like that they had those large captions to tell you where you were, but I don't know, like it was just, I don't know, it was hard for me to follow, like, well, when did we get here and how did, that kind of thing. I don't know, it was kind of, like I said, it was kind of a drawback to me. I liked that the movie got to go to various places to film. Marvel had the budget to do it, and that was cool. But, and we didn't really see a lot of these places that they were at. It was just kind of various cities around the world. So, I don't know, I didn't really see too much of the advantage of moving about the globe like they did. Another thing I didn't quite understand, I didn't fully understand why Bucky wanted to be frozen again at the end of the movie. I get that he feels like, all of the conditioning and brainwashing from Hydra was still in his head, and he's like, until that's out, I can't trust myself. But I would think, how is being deep frozen or cryogenically frozen again, how is that going to fix the problem? And I guess, I don't know if that's just his way of saying, well, let me hit the pause button until they do figure something out. Well, then to me, it's like, well, you're going to constantly be unfrozen, and frozen again, and they'll thaw you back out, and each time it's like, well, that didn't work, let's freeze them again until we figure. I don't know, like, to me, I thought it was kind of ridiculous. I'm like, why not try having an actual psychiatrist psychologically evaluate you or whatever? I don't know, like, I just didn't like the way that they literally paused on that character. So I feel like we're not going to see him again until the solo Black Panther movie, if that, but who knows. Also, kind of on the same subject, being in the tech advanced Wakanda, why didn't they give Bucky a new prosthetic arm? I don't understand that at all. And I'm not saying they had to give him a vibranium one. I don't think T'Challa would have done something that major, but come on, you could have given the guy a new like metal arm. So I didn't get that. I wish they had done that. So anyway, another question I had too was, I'm kind of trying to get my like negative stuff, I guess, out of the way, but how did Cap break into that like raft prison? I don't understand. Like at the end of the movie, I'm like, how did you get there? I'm only assuming, the only answer I might have is that T'Challa helped him out in doing that, but I don't know, like it doesn't quite add up for me. Like, he doesn't have the Avengers resources anymore, and pretty much all of his crew is in lockup. So it's like, how did you get there? How did you know where it was? Because, Tony was the one that knew where it was before, and it seemingly none of the other Avengers have outside contact with him, so I don't know. So I didn't quite get that. But I mean, I was glad that he broke them out. I was like, you can't bench all of those awesome characters. You just can't. So it'll be cool to see, like, are they all going to be hiding out in Wakanda? Are they going to be, spread out and hiding around the globe? And how many places are they able to even hide out with the Sokovia Accords intact? So very, very curious to see what happens there. So kind of going on with my notes. Like I said in my non-spoiler review, love Black Panther. Been really hyped about him. Chadwick Boseman did not disappoint me in the least. I'm so amazed and proud of him for what he did with the character. Can't wait for the Solo movie. And especially even after seeing Creed, which I know Chadwick Boseman had nothing to do with that, but Ryan Coogler was the director of that movie, and he's writing and directing Black Panther. So I'm so excited. So I think anytime you see like your favorite character brought to life and done well, like when they really do them justice, it's such a thrilling thing. So that's kind of where I'm at, and couldn't get enough of Black Panther, and I, could go back and rewatch all of his scenes over and over and never get tired of it. Love listening to the accent. It was just so good. I was really, really sad, even though I kind of had known it was coming. I was sad that T'Chaka got taken out. He seemed like a great, profound ruler, and I think that was the point. Like, that's kind of how he's portrayed in the comics. Like, T'Challa and T'Chaka have a very close relationship, and obviously T'Challa looks up to him and all of that. So it was great to see them kind of show that these two are on good terms, and T'Chaka is trying to kind of groom, or was trying to groom T'Challa to take over and succeed him one day. And unfortunately that came a lot sooner than expected. So, but I loved the growth of Black Panther in this movie, even though it wasn't even his movie, that it was amazing. He had all of this vengeance, and he didn't let it fully cloud him at the end of the movie, even though he very easily could have. Here we go. Oh, good. It's still recording. I was kind of nervous there. I thought it stopped. Anyway, he could have let it consume him. But I love that when he had that conversation at the end of the movie with Zemo, and he pointed that out. He was just like, revenge has consumed you. It's consuming them. I'm done letting it consume me. I love that he was a ruler. He was the bigger person. He had to be above everybody else and above the proverbial BS, I guess you could say, which I know it wasn't, but anyway, I love that. I love that he stopped Baron Zemo from killing himself at the end of the movie, because you see that happen. Like, I know that happens in real life, and it's so, I don't know, it disgusts me so much when there's like terroristic acts, and then the terrorists are like, well, you'll never get anything out of me, and I've done what I've done. I've wreaked the havoc that I've wreaked, and then they kill themselves, and it's just the most infuriating thing. So Zemo was gonna do that, and then T'Challa stopped him. His Panther suit is bulletproof, so he's able to kind of pull a Tony, so to speak. Only he knew he had more of the confidence that his equipment would work. And I just love the line that he gave Zemo when he was just like, "The living are not done with you yet," and I was just like, oh man. Even one of my friends, when I went and saw it last night, she was even like, oh, like kind of that chills, like Mufasa, Mufasa. It was so good. Like I said, I can't say enough good things about T'Challa. The movie, and to the movie's credit, I've been Team Cap, and I'm still Team Cap after seeing the movie. And as much of a fan as I am of particular characters on Team Iron Man, I'm still Team Cap. But to the movie's credit, like I said in my non-spoiler review, you would be hard-pressed to tell me after seeing the movie that you don't understand why each person took the side that they took. You know why everybody stands where they stand. And I love that. I thought that was so good and so important too. It wasn't everybody's just blindly following Cap, or everybody's just blindly following Tony. You get why people took the positions that they took. Which I guess kind of brings me to Spider-Man again. And I'm sorry, Spider-Man fans, I'm going to kind of rag on Spider-Man a little bit here. So, I say that everybody didn't kind of blindly follow. To me, Peter Parker is kind of the only one that sort of fits that category. Again, I get why he was on Tony's side. Like, Tony approached him, they had their heart-to-heart. He also offered him a suit upgrade. Like, there were a lot of things where it's like, how do you not join his side? But even during the fight itself, like, you had multiple characters saying, like, what is this kid doing here? And, like, he clearly is not an experienced fighter, and does he even know what's going on? Like, Cap kind of had to ask him, like, well, what else has Tony told you? And he's like, oh, he says you're wrong, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, do you even know, like, wrong about what? Do you even know? Like, I don't know, like, that just kind of fueled my opinion that Spider-Man was not necessary for this movie. Now, having said that, yes, some of the lightheartedness that he brought to the movie was welcome, but I also kind of felt like it was a bit excessive. And part of why I say that is you already had other characters who were bringing the comedy, so to speak. My main case in point, Ant-Man, Paul Rudd's Ant-Man. And not only did he bring the comedy, but he was, he was an aide to Team Cap, and I thought that was great, and I'll get into that a little bit more. But like I said, I don't know. I didn't feel like Spider-Man was necessary, and I'm sorry to those of you who do not agree, and for those of you who try to call me out, again, like I said in my non-spoiler review, I have read the Captain America comic. I own it. I'm looking at it right now. So I know the part that Peter Parker plays, say that 5 times fast, I know the part he plays in the comic, and I do think he creates a pivotal moment in the comic. He doesn't do that in this movie. He doesn't create this big game changer in the movie. So like I said, I think Tom Holland, the actor playing Spider-Man now for the MCU and Sony or whatever, I think he will do a phenomenal job in Spider-Man Homecoming, which is coming out next year. But I did not feel like he was necessary here. I didn't feel like this was the introduction that he should have had to the MCU necessarily. So that's my opinion with Spider-Man, and I will try not to rag on him anymore in this spoiler review. So but going back to Ant-Man really quick, loved him. Paul Rudd, I loved him in his solo movie. He surprised the heck out of me because I was like, really, Marvel? You're going to do an Ant-Man movie? And then it was like, you're not even going to follow Hank Pym. You're going to follow Scott Lang, who like pretty much nobody knows about. And, unless you're like a diehard comic book fan, like, who the heck is Scott Lang? And well, now you know who he is. And I thought that they handled that very well. They answered that question very well, and I liked the way that they handled the Solo movie. So I loved that they brought him in. Like, you knew he was coming. If you've seen the Solo Ant-Man movie and you stayed through the credits and all of that, you knew he was coming because of his interaction with Falcon. So I enjoyed the part he played. Now, you know, in defending what I said about him versus Peter Parker's comedic relief and whatnot, you already kind of knew that that was Ant-Man's MO, and a lot of that being attributed to Paul Rudd and him being a comedian, like he's a comedic actor. But he also brought a lot of useful things to the fight too, like him being on Hawkeye's arrow. I think nobody will ever forget. Like, that was just, even before the movie itself dropped, when that was in the trailer, people loved it. I've constantly heard people talk about how awesome that was. And when he went into Tony's suit and, this is your conscience, we haven't spoken in a while, hilarious, and then Tony kind of airbrushing him out of the suit, so to speak, was cool. And then the Giant Man reveal, that was awesome. Now, I knew that was coming. There was quite a bit of things that I already knew about. I knew T'Chaka was going to die. I knew Ant-Man was going to become Giant Man. And I'd heard something about Bucky clones, but it wasn't. I'm kind of glad that that spoiler for me was not quite what it ended up being, because I thought that he was literally cloned, and that all of these Sebastian Stan looking Buckys were running around. I was like, really? So I'm glad that that was not the case. But anyway, I knew Ant-Man was going to become Giant Man, and I'm so glad that it happened the way that it did. Like, what I loved and what was so endearing about Paul Rudd's Ant-Man and his comic relief and his help to Team Cap was just like, he was just so excited to be there. And it was like, how do you he didn't do it in a childlike way necessarily that was equivalent to Peter Parker. He wasn't inexperienced per se, and he'd had interactions with at least one Avenger prior to this movie, which was great. But I just loved the way that he fit in with the team. I loved the way that they introduced his ability to turn into Giant Man. It was great. I really loved it. And Jason, my brother, when you see this movie, I think you're going to be so happy that they did in fact bring Giant Man. And I give him a shout out because I know he was excited to see Giant Man, and he really wanted to see that happen. So you got what you wanted, Jay. So kind of finishing up with my list here, because I still have a few more points in this video. It's getting super long. I'm afraid it's going to cut me off soon. So if it does, I apologize, and I'll try to keep going in another video. Crossbones, kind of underused. He was kind of a tool in this movie, which in a way I was okay with because of how they presented him at the beginning of the movie. I was just like, okay, on the one hand, you're kind of like whining because of what Cap did to him. You dropped a building on me and blah, blah, blah. But on the other hand, he was like proud of himself, like, oh, that don't work on me no more. And I'm tough, and I've been waiting for this my whole life. And not my whole life, but I've been waiting for this a long time. And, I don't know. Like, it was very confusing to me. I was like, okay, so are you mad at Cap because he and Falcon caused you to, be all burned up and disfigured looking? And are you like, you know what, you did this to me, but thanks a lot, because now look at what I am. Like, I don't know, it didn't feel like that was the attitude that he took necessarily. It wasn't clear to me. And then he killed himself. Like, granted, yeah, Wanda contained the explosion so that Cap didn't get taken out with him, but I was just like, so you've been waiting for this fight for who knows how long now? What, over 2-3 years now? Something like that. I think that's when Winter Soldier came out, 2014. Anyway, you've been waiting for this fight a long time. You finally get it. Cap hands your ass to you. And because I don't know, like, so you were waiting to blow yourself up in front of Captain America? Like, I don't know, like, on the one hand, like I said, on the one hand, I'm glad that he wasn't in the movie as much as he was. But on the other hand, I was just like, really? That's all you had to do? Like, and I also get the purpose of him, too, kind of creating this additional inciting incident to underscore why the Sokovia Accords are important. I just felt like Crossbones as a villain was underused. Now, if you know the character in the comics, he is indirectly, or yeah, you could say he's directly responsible for Cap being killed and like death of Captain America and all of that. So that's why, like, knowing that he is a pretty powerful villain in that respect in the comics, and then just kind of seeing him reduced to just being a tool, a plot device, I was just like, meh. So anyway, that's all I had to say about Crossbones. Kind of a letdown, I would say. That's really kind of my point. It's kind of letdown. So let me see, where am I at in my notes? Oh, daddy issues. I have that in like big capital letters. There were so many daddy issues in this movie. Even the subtle ones that you might not even have thought about. I was just like, wow, there are so many. So, and I don't mean that necessarily to say that everybody was just fighting with their dad necessarily. It was more the fact, like, nobody gets to have a father apparently in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and in the Marvel comics and stuff too, but that's another story. But in this movie, it was just like, you had Paul Rudd saying, oh, if or not Paul Rudd, but Tony saying to Scott, if you do this, you're going to be a criminal. He's like, what's new? And I was just kind of like, well, wait, weren't you trying to, improve your life so you could be with your daughter? Like, and I know she knows that now he's a hero and all that, but it's like, well, now you're going to be a criminal again. And isn't that, well, maybe him and his ex-wife have a better understanding now. So I don't know. I kind of just thought about that. I was like, well, maybe she won't be like, oh, now you're a criminal again. You don't get to see Cassie. I don't know. But that, to me, it was like just the fact that there's a gray area there. It was just like, oh, that might not go over so well, and now that you're a fugitive, so to speak, or whatever. But there was that. There were people trying to guilt Clint for coming out of retirement, and even he was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be in trouble. I was supposed to take my kids water skiing and blah blah blah. And then Tony trying to guilt him, and there was that aspect to it. Right down to Tony finding out how his parents really died, and him using that like holographic 3D video image or whatever of him when he was younger, and the obvious tension between him and Howard Stark, and then watching the footage of his parents being killed, and then T'Challa losing T'Chaka, and I was just like, even Baron Zemo had a moment of talking about losing his father, and I was just like, oh my gosh, these poor people and their lack of fathers. It was just, oh man, I just was surprised there were so many issues with fathers and losses of fathers in this movie that was like so prevalent and so directly tied into motivations and whatnot. I don't know, I was just like, wow. So I had to point that one out. The other thing I wanted to talk about too, that I kind of hinted at in my non-spoiler, was one of my favorite comedic exchanges. It's very, very short, but during the airport fight, which I will talk about in a little bit too before I wrap this video up, the airport fight with T'Challa and Clint Hawkeye, when they're fighting, I like that. First of all, I have to give Hawkeye his props for being like, you know what, I don't know who you are, but we're gonna fight. Like, I don't see you shooting laser beams out of your hands and stuff, so let's go. And I like that he kind of had that attitude about him, and people, I think, rag on Hawkeye as not being a useful Avenger. I strongly disagree with that, and I think that if you are really paying attention to the character, he's way more resourceful and useful than he's given credit for overall, just because he's not powered, so to speak. But I liked that during his fight, I liked that Clint's bow turned into, like, his bow and arrow bow turned into a bow staff. I wish we had seen him use it more. I wish we had seen him use it more in general in the MCU. It was so cool to see it just transform like that in the movie, but it was very brief. Sorry, I bumped my laptop. It was very brief, and I knew that, a fight between him and Black Panther couldn't last too long. One, for the movie's sake, you can't focus on two characters for too long. But anyway, what I loved and what really made me laugh was, and people in the theater laughed too when I saw this the other night, was how Clint was like, "Oh yeah, I don't think you know who I am. I'm Clint." And T'Challa's just like, "I don't care." And he just says it like, one of the things, and I'm sorry, this is more of my Black Panther fangirl. When Black Panther would speak, he kept that poise about him. Like, I got really annoyed that people were saying, "Oh, he looks like the Black Power Ranger." No, he doesn't. Get out of here with that. And oh man, I got on a rant with that one. But one of the things that's super corny about the Power Rangers, and you kind of have seen it a bit with past incarnations of Spider-Man. You saw it a little bit with Tom Holland's Spider-Man too. But when you have the characters that are fully masked like that, a lot of times they do that like head talking where they're like, "Yeah, blah 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 blah, and you blah blah blah," like they talk with their head, and it's so obnoxious. So what I liked is that you don't get that from Black Panther. He's not like, "I don't care," and blah blah blah, and he was very poised, and I think that just kind of speaks more to emphasizing this character and who he is as a ruler and a royal, as well as a fighter and whatnot. And I like that he didn't need to do that with the mask. I like that the mask didn't completely muffle his voice, but the way that those lines were delivered, that "I'm Clint, I don't care," it was so funny, and so those characters that I just loved it. Like I said, very small exchange, but got a very big reaction out of me. I really enjoyed the fight, and kind of just real quick, I'm going to talk about the airport exchange and then wrap this up. The Natasha Clint fight, I wish had been a little bit longer. I'm kind of bummed that it had come to Wanda having to interfere with the fight, because I really wanted to see more of Clint and Natasha fight each other. I was like, wow, because these two, they're really good friends. They're best friends. I mean, Natasha already knew about Clint's little secret hideout place, and they were going to name their Clint and his wife were going to name their kid after Natasha, until it turned out to be a boy and all that. So it was just like, they have a history there. And yeah, I just thought that the fight would have been cool to have seen a little longer. Kind of, like I said, talking about the airport fight scene, because to me, that was probably, visually to me, that was probably like one of the coolest action sequences in the movie, just because you had everybody came out to play. Okay, so clearly I've been talking too long, so I'll try to go through this really quick, because I see that the video went pretty long before. Anyway, you see that Clint and Natasha had a history there, so I thought that was pretty cool to see the two of them fight. I wish it had been a little longer. I did like that Spider-Man went to stop Falcon and Bucky, and I kind of like that as he's interacting with people, he's kind of like, "Oh, you have a metal arm, that's awesome, dude," and asking Falcon, "Oh, about your wings," and blah blah blah. And then when he's when he's facing Cap, and he's just like, "Yeah, he said he would do that, and he also said to go for your legs," and blah blah blah. So I like that he's kind of, the way he was kind of asking, and he had this curiosity about him. Obviously, very childlike, So it put me in conflict because I liked it, but I didn't like it. I just kind of, again, didn't feel like it was necessary. Um, I liked Wanda a lot. I mean, obviously, she is she's probably the most powerful chess piece on the board, honestly, because you want to say that it's Vision, but she stopped him. She overpowered him. We saw that when Hawkeye came to break her out of the compound. I was just like, wow. I mean, I had a feeling they were gonna try to show like, hey, yeah, she's pretty powerful, but the way that she dropped him stories below, I was like, did not see that coming. Sorry, Quicksilver. That was just wow. But I was a little bit annoyed. Like, I get why she did it, because obviously, you're in a fight. If you're able to help your teammates, you're gonna do it. But I kind of wish she hadn't been interfering as much with the fight between Clint and Natasha, and then the fight between T'Challa and Bucky, and excuse me. She was kind of everywhere at the same time, and I love that at the beginning of the fight when Hawkeye and her are trying to get to the Quinjet, and Tony tries to stop them, and Hawkeye uses his arrow to distract, and she starts using her kind of telekinetic energy to pull all of those cars down, like just rapid succession. I was like, wow, that was amazing, So I think Wanda, visually amazing power set and all of that. Elizabeth Olsen, the actress playing her, did a phenomenal job again. I felt bad for her a lot of the times. I enjoyed a lot of the scenes and conversations she had with Vision. And I like that they kind of gave the nod to the relationship that develops between them in the comics. And I like that the two of them, when the fight kind of ended, I like that the two of them apologized to each other, because it reminded you that all of these guys fighting each other there's still a friendship there, even if they disagree about the Sokovia Accords. What it showed was like, yeah, we might not be on the same page, but it doesn't mean that I don't care about you. It doesn't mean that I want you dead. And I think Tony even said that to Cap. He was just like, yeah, sometimes I want to punch you and stuff, but we still need you around. I don't want you dead. I don't want to see you gone either. So I liked that kind of reminder. That was just a very small reminder. Like, yeah, on the one hand, you want to get caught up in the action. Yeah, kick his butt and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, you have to be reminded, like, these guys were all fighting on the same side at one point. And they were friends, and they've trusted each other in the past. And you can't just erase all of that overnight or in 36 hours, you know what I mean? So really enjoyed that. The last thing I will talk about, and then I'm going to end this part 2, I guess, now of my Civil War spoiler review. I really thought they were going to bring Quicksilver back. Now, I did see some people kind of like, oh, they shouldn't bring him back so soon and whatnot, and maybe there are people who like, they don't need to bring him back at all, and I strongly disagree with that. That's a rant I could have in a whole other video, but I really thought they were going to bring him back when they first showed the trailer of the movie, and what it turned out to be the clones, the super soldier clones. I thought that Quicksilver was in one of those cells initially, before we knew any details about what that place even was. I really thought that was him, and I was so excited. I was like, oh, they're going to bring him back, and I wonder how they're going to do it. And I still believe that they're going to bring him back. One, because I know Aaron Taylor Johnson had said after Age of Ultron that he had a multi-film contract, so I'm hoping that didn't change. I know those things can change. I also feel like they should bring him back because they didn't even acknowledge him in the movie, really. The most acknowledgement that happened was Clint telling, I think, Tony or not Tony, Clint telling Cap that he owed a debt, and he kind of looked back at Wanda like, yeah, your brother saved my life, you know. But other than that, it was like nobody mentioned him in the movie. Even Wanda didn't mention him. She didn't mention him. She wasn't grieving for him. There was no like burial site or anything like that she went to go visit to, you know, think to reflect on her brother before she went off to go fight in, you know, for Cap's team. Like, there was just like, I don't know, I'm like, the fact that it was almost like, hey, don't even think about Quicksilver, like, I don't know, I thought that was a very odd choice. And that, to me, if they're not bringing him back for like Infinity War, then that to me is kind of a criticism against the Russo brothers in terms of continuity. Like, you guys should have at least had Wanda mention him, or Cap, or Hawkeye. Somebody should have at the very least have mentioned him if he's not coming back. So they didn't mention him. They didn't have any kind of service for him. So I'm still convinced that he's coming back at some point. So we'll see what happens there. Oh, and speaking of services and whatnot, that was very sad that Peggy was the death in the movie. I didn't think about that. When I saw the clips in the TV spots and whatnot of Cap attending a funeral and they had the flag draped over, I thought that it was going to be Rhodey. And I thought that that was going to be kind of a pause in the fight, and that Cap was like, you know, yeah, we might not have agreed, but he was still a friend, and he was still an Avenger, and I'm going to do this. And yeah, maybe that would have been Cap's pause moment, like, is this really all worth it? And, you know, yada yada. It was a very sad twist of events to have that have turned out to have been Peggy. So, but appropriate too. I mean, she was older, and we saw like she was in some kind of a home suffering from Alzheimer's, and she lived a long life. She lived a good life. She was one of the founding members of S.H.I.E.L.D. She helped train Cap, and she continued to be an agent. We've seen on Agent Carter, and, you know, so I didn't feel bad necessarily that she was the one to die in the movie. I do think Rhodey should have died, though. I will say that. I thought he should have died. I cannot believe that fall that he took and how impactful it was. Like, everybody in the movie theater, when I saw in the theater, everybody was like, oh, like, you kind of it just took your breath away, not in a good way, because of how nasty that fall sounded. And the fact that those Iron Man suits, like, I know Tony's pretty cocky and confident in his work, but I'm thinking, like, if you know that those reactors are the only things that power those suits, how do you not have, like, a parachute or something as a backup in case somebody does figure out, like, hey, if I take this out, then, you know, you're kind of useless. I don't know. So I felt like Rhodey should have died. I thought it was kind of cheap that, well, he just became paralyzed, and now it's like he's not even permanently paralyzed because Tony created some kind of tech to help him walk and become rehabilitated again. And I'm not bashing, you know, physical therapy or rehabilitation. That's not it at all. But it was just the fact that you're in this basically metal suit and you fell hundreds of feet in stories. You were chasing after a jet and you just dropped into the ground, you know. I was like, your bones would have been soup. Like, I don't know. Like, so I usually don't root for certain heroic deaths in the movies, obviously, given my rants I've had with Quicksilver dying. But I thought Rhodey should have died. So anyway, those are my last thoughts about Captain America Civil War, all of my spoiler content talk. If you've seen the movie, feel free to share your thoughts and whatnot. So I will be posting these again on Facebook and Tumblr. And I'd love to chat with you some more. So if you haven't seen the movie and you sat through and listened to all of this, first of all, so if you sat through all of my reviews, thank you. Appreciate the support. If you sat through this, haven't seen the movie yet, and you've watched all the spoiler, well, I hope you still go see it, because listening to somebody talk about it is not at all the same as watching all of this awesomeness. So enjoy the movie, everybody, and hopefully I will be talking with you some more about it soon. All right, bye.